Storytelling Podcast, episode number 64. Welcome to the Storytelling Podcast, where everything's fictional, even you. And now, here are your hosts, two guys and a girl who lie for a living, Garrett, Zach, and Chrissy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Storytelling Podcast, the podcast that's all about fiction, fiction, and more fiction, and telling the best truths through the medium of lies. I'm your host, Garrett Robinson. With me, as always, faithful co-host Chrissy Moss and faithful co-host Scott Richards. Not with us tonight, Zach, and our intro gets inaccurate in new and inventive ways every week. It's awesome. Oh, boy.
Maybe you need a more generic one.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should just stop mentioning the hosts at all.
People talking about writing.
Not just that, just whatever. And then
People talking.
At least one person of unnamed gender will be here. Anyway, how's the week been going, guys? What's been happening with you?
Chrissy, would you like to go first?
Getting more of my writing done, which is kind of awesome.
Yay.
Footprints will be free this weekend. That's also kind of awesome.
Say that again?
Footprints, my story Footprints, will be free this weekend.
Yay, put that in your calendars, guys. That's a good story. I've read that. I edited that.
You did. Yeah, that's my news.
Cool. Scott, what's happening, dude? What's happening, bro?
Getting back into the tone of Hero, which was actually surprisingly hard for me. It has a very different voice than the Thoroughly Cheese Shroud series does, so I've had to reread, re-edit the first bit so I could get back into the mindset for writing the second one. And now that I finally, getting back into it, I believe my child is starting to phase out one of her naps, so there goes half my writing time for the day. So
It's awesome.
why? Yeah, so
Yay.
dealing with that. But
See, that's why my computer has always been in my living room, so that my kids could play and whatever right there while I was writing or playing a game or whatever.
I'm sure I'll get to that point as she gets older, but right now she's of the needs constant supervision and attention stage. So
Yeah.
otherwise she'll walk backwards onto some brick.
Huzzah. Yeah, that's fun. Kids are fun.
Always.
You are a full-time stay-at-home dad?
I am. Yep. I just watch the baby and then right when she's unconscious. However that may happen.
Talking about walking backwards into bricks.
Ooh, I could get like 500 words out of this.
See, I have not had that experience. I imagine that must be fairly interesting because just because I know that when I'm babysitting for my kids, even if they go down for a nap, like if mom goes and does something for a weekend or something like that, even if they go down for a nap, that's usually my pass out on the couch exhausted time. It's not my ooh, I can now get work done. I'm just like, ugh. So props to you for being able to keep it up.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is definitely that. She goes down, and then it's just race, and I have to ignore my own fatigue. The end. How about you, Garrett? How's Garrett today?
Oh, I'm good. I did a film scout today. I'm shooting a movie, not this Saturday, but not this weekend, but next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, October 11th and 12th, which is actually a kind of a big deal because it's my first film adaptation of one of my published works. I have the short story Unsaid out there, which is kind of a...
Ooh, I know that one.
Yeah, it's very sad, and it's a highly fictionalized account of my mom passing away. So happy fun time, right? But no, I turned it into a short film, and somebody, an actress friend of mine who's totally amazing, did a Kickstarter for it and raised $4,500. So we get to make a movie. Yeah.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah, and we went and we checked out we actually checked out a few amazing houses today, but we checked out the house that we are now going to be shooting in, and it's amazing. It's really, really pretty. So
So
Yeah.
this is going to be in a house? Because the story takes place in the hospital.
Yeah, we tried to find hospital sets, but like, for one, shooting in a hospital is just like movies
Not
do
gonna happen.
that. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
but like they spend a lot of money, and then so people, especially in LA, build lots of hospital sets. But even for those, you're looking at like paying $2,000 to shoot in there over a weekend, and it's just like, nope. So we turned it into like a hospice type situation, which is actually appropriate because that's what happened in real life. So, there you go.
Totally works. That's awesome, though. When are you going to start shooting that?
Not this weekend, but next weekend, October 11th and 12th.
How long do you anticipate that taking? Do you think you'll be able to do it just over a weekend, or do you?
Oh
think
yeah,
it'll take, like,
for sure. It's a short story, and it only takes place like most of it. It's just them sitting down and kind of talking. Have either one of you read it by chance?
Yeah,
I haven't.
no, I read it.
Okay. So like it's mostly just the talking, and then like the twist at the end, which is
Right.
each actor when they got the script was like, oh, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. Glad you like it.
Is that them liking it?
Exactly. So anyway, but it's nice to be able, because I have lots of people who have worked with me on films in the past, and like I've like there's early on in film there's lots of exchanges of favors and stuff, so they've all done stuff for me for free, and this time I got to call them up and be like, so what's your daily rate, and I'm going to pay you that. So that
wow.
was really nice.
Ah.
So anyway,
Good stuff.
yeah,
Feels like a
it's
step
exciting.
up, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Now the next thing, well, not the next thing maybe, but at some point, maybe next year, we want to turn the Touch trilogy into a feature-length film, and that will be awesome. But we're gonna see how this one does first. This one's like I'm gonna make this one available for sale, and I'm gonna put a CTA in the back of the book to the film, and I'm gonna make the short story perma-free. So we'll see how it goes. Like maybe I've been selling books for a long time. Maybe I can start selling movies. I don't know. We'll find out. So
Are you gonna make a movie trailer? Put on YouTube's?
YouTubes, yeah, I'll do that as well because YouTubes is where video happens. But anyway, let's see what else happened this week. Oh, did you guys watch Nuts and Bolts?
What's that?
The new video series that I'm doing for Sterling Stone?
Yes.
I haven't seen it up yet. I must have missed the.
I
links to it.
saw
I
the
will
first
watch
one
it.
and watched half the second one, and I was like, well, it's kind of appropriate that we were not mentioned in that because.
Well, somebody said in the comments, they were like, dude, why didn't you even include your own podcast? I'm like, for one, we don't talk about self-publishing at all. Like we're
well, kind of, but in an offhanded way.
Yeah, it's so peripheral. It's like, I mean, let's just put it out there. This podcast does not belong in the self-publishing space, in the same self-publishing space as the self-publishing podcast, the Creative Pen podcast, the Rockin' Self-Publishing podcast.
Right.
Like them, us, not apples and oranges.
No.
So
I wish it was sometimes, but
yeah, I just feel like there's so many already, and like I don't know. I don't know that I'd want to do a self-publishing book.
Hanging and chatting about mechanics too. So
yeah, exactly. So anyway, but it's fun. It's fun, and Nuts and Bolts is like I'm excited that soon I'm going to start doing like the actual tutorials, the actual like okay, here's how you format an ebook and everything, and there's one more video that's going to come out before that starts happening, and it's about the cost of self-publishing a book, and just from the first video and this one, people are like, I want the tutorials, and I'm like, okay, you need to learn some things first. Jesus Christ.
So the next one is going to say anywhere from free to $5,000, depending on what you do.
Exactly. That's pretty much the exact price range. It's like minimum you got to pay $40 for Scrivener, and I will not.
If you want it to look good, yeah.
Right. But no, just like period. I'm like I will not budge on that point. I'll let you put out a book without editing it, as long as you did it in Scrivener. Don't put out a book without editing it. But
Pretty much.
Even if it's just your friends editing it several thousand times.
Yeah, exactly. So, what are we talking about tonight, guys?
It's your fault. It's you. You get to announce it.
I know I picked tonight's topic. I wanted to talk. Tonight's topic, official title, is fancy writing versus flat writing, and it was originally going to be fancy writing versus functional writing, and then Scott was like, "Oh, this should be interesting because I'm really a big fan of functional writing," and I didn't mean it like that. Like I meant it. I meant it as like writing that is interesting and exciting and good to read versus writing that's just maybe not even grammatically incorrect. Maybe there's no errors or typos, but it's just a chore. It's just like, oh my god. And obviously this is a super complicated topic, and
Mhm.
you know we can do what we can in an hour to try and cover it. But that's why I got us on topic so early. Um,
Good job.
I know,
that's,
right?
That's how you do that.
But I mean, for me, obviously, one of the most important points in learning how to write well and keep yourself fresh and interesting is reading a lot and doing things like copying other writers, like reading a chapter or a scene and then going and sitting down and trying to write it yourself, and then looking at what you did and looking at what they did.
Mm.
Because what I find is a lot of writers, I don't know about a lot of writers, but certain writers have a tendency to, I mean, for one thing, they never change up their language. Like every sentence is the same. It's, you know,
Mhm.
Garrett walked into the room, Garrett sat down at the desk, Garrett turned on his computer, and it's just like, please.
Have you been following Immerse or Die?
Sorry?
Immerse or Die? Immerse or Die. It's
Immerse
where
or
he.
Die.
Yes.
Yes, I have. That's actually
Yes.
quite good.
Yes.
Yeah.
That you should have included that one in your list of blogs for that video. Anyway, he just put out a thing where he showed the most common mistakes, and one of them was grammar and editing, of course, and then the other one was the flat writing, where it was he did this, he did this, he did this constantly.
Right.
It's a very common thing.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I edit freelance. I actually just finished editing a couple of books. One of them is Simon Canton's, and one of them was Stacy Claflin's. But I've edited lots of books over the years, and some people it's a funny thing about editing, which is that some people are kind of okay with sending an editor, a copy editor, a first or second draft, thinking that the copy editor is going to like spruce up the language and whatnot, and that is not what a copy editor does. That's actually
Right.
not like that's sort of what a line editor is supposed to do, but they're not
Mhm.
supposed to make your writing sound good. They're supposed to remove confusion. If you have an overburdened sentence that just goes on and on and on, or a run-on sentence, they would address that. But they don't
like
address
poem.
the he does this, he did this, he did this, he did this thing.
Yeah.
Or they shouldn't, in my opinion.
No, that's more, I think, developmental.
Right. And that's the sort of thing where a developmental editor should say, listen, over the whole book, you need to, and some people hand you, you know, like a 10th draft or a 9th or 10th or I mean, I never know what draft I'm getting, but like certain people, it's like copy editing can only do so much. Really, any editing can only do so much because you're always dealing with you know what you're given and everything. So I don't know. Like for me, in terms of quality, but there's a difference between quality of writing and errors in writing, because yeah, if you are hiring a copy editor, like you know, you don't have to, I don't think you have to go as nuts on the typos and spelling errors if there are any. You should try to knock them out, but you don't have to go berserk because you are specifically hiring someone who you trust to take care of stuff like that for you. But in terms of like I guess my point is just like don't turn a book over to a copy editor and expect it to come out as like a masterful work of literary prose, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say.
Actually, I was having a conversation with a friend about this just the other day, actually. It's about the whole idea of editing. Basically, editing is opinion. Unless your sentence is broken and you have grammatical error or a misspelling, those are things that need to be fixed. Really, anything outside of that is opinion. It's style. It's taste. And when looking, and you really should look for an editor. You shouldn't just hire the first one that you find, because
unless it's me, unless I'm the first editor, but then hire me.
Yeah, you're definitely one size fits most. Legally, we have to say fits most. But yeah, it's all got to be opinions. So as the writer, it's really important that you learn what kind of writing style you have, what your voice is, and you have to find that first. You can't expect an editor to do that for you.
Yeah.
Because when you have to get an editor that understands your style, because that's the other thing. That was the other thing that he and I were talking about, was that with a lot of editors, with a lot of people that like to have an opinion about your writing, they say, oh, I would do this like this. Oh, I would do that. No, you don't want to do this. You want to do it like this. And that's not necessarily helpful. Is this broken the way it is? Is this confusing the way it is? Did it read fine? Did you get the point? Did it read okay? Then it's fine. And as the writer, you have to be able to make that judgment call. You have to be able to read through an editor's notes and say, okay, they have a point here, they have a point here. No, I meant it like this. I like it like that. That's how I meant it.
Right.
And so,
as an editor, you also have to be cognizant of, like, I'm going to suggest something, but, like, maybe this is just the way that they want it. Like, I'll always suggest, if I see something, even if I'm being hired as a copy editor, if I see something that is developmentally challenged, that works very well. I will comment on it with a big fat note in the comment. By the way, I know that I'm just a copy editor, so, like, ignore this if you want. But one time, a while ago, and I guess I feel comfortable saying this because, one, I'm not going to mention the name of the person or the book, and also I have never had any contact with this person.
And also, I'm sitting right here.
Right. I had one that I started the copy edit, and I stopped. And I sent it back and I said, you need a developmental editor, and I have those services available, but you really need one, whoever it is. I can recommend others if you need them or whatever, but, like, I don't want to copy edit your book because you're still going to end up with a book that
isn't readable.
Right, that I said isn't marketable. I meant is a piece of crap.
And I haven't forgiven you since.
I know. But it was one of those things where it was like, he was like, well, I've got the story down on paper, on digital paper, and now I will give it to an editor and I will pay him, 2 cents a word, and it will become the best thing ever written. No, it's not how it works.
Well, this is where the whole Ira Glass thing comes in. You get into writing because you have taste.
Right.
But when you first start writing, you suck.
Right.
And there's just no two ways about it. Everyone who starts writing sucks at first, and you have to get better by practice.
Right.
And sometimes you have to have somebody hit you upside the head with a 2x4 telling you, this is not good, you need more practice.
Rachel Davis had an excellent suggestion. She said, just end the intro with 2 guys and a girl. That seems to be accurate most of the time.
Yeah.
Yep. And then in the days
or
when
some
Zach is
guys
here, I'm still left out.
Well, when I take a day off, we'll just have Scott dress in a dress.
Yes.
I could do that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll let my hair down, and I can try shaving again and just freak everybody out.
Don't try shaving. Don't shave.
No, don't do it.
No, we're done with that. We're glad this is back. Yeah.
That was bad. That was not good.
It just looked weird.
And I was also worried because, like, just from my own personal perspective, right? Like, if I shaved, this wouldn't be back for a few months. So when you were shaved last week, I was like, oh, God, we're going to have Freaky Scott for weeks.
I'm so happy that you have these thoughts of me after the show. It's nice. It makes me feel special.
I might be playing them up for comedic effect, but I might not too.
So back to editing.
Back to
Right.
editing. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Word.
writing. I mean, I think that a major lesson that a lot of writers could stand to learn is that any type of editing, developmental or copy editing, only brings out the best. It brings out the best in what you've got. It
Mhm.
doesn't put awesomeness there that isn't there in the first place. You know what I mean?
One thing that I recommend.
Not unless you hire a ghostwriter who rewrites the whole damn thing.
Right, exactly.
But unless you're an actor and you're writing your biography, that's probably not going to happen.
An actor or Snooki, who is not an actor.
Or
I don't know what she is, but she's not.
Or Kanye, because
Or Kanye.
he's a proud non-book reader.
Wow.
Fact, and now he has a book out. He feels it gives him a childlike sense of wonder.
Oh
and
my god.
So you really need to make sure that you're at a certain point before you're even thinking about hiring an editor.
Right.
Unless it's a developmental editor where you're going to pay them to help you raise your bar. But really, before you even get to that point, there's things that you can do to help alleviate. One thing, like if you're first starting out, like you mentioned, Garrett, you find books that you really like, passages that you really enjoy, and try rewriting them in your own words. Like read it so it's fresh, and then put it down, and then just try to rewrite it and see what happens. And that's a good exercise. Another thing I recommend is short stories, because it's really important to finish stories.
Right.
It's really important to go from beginning to end and call it done and move on to the next one. And short stories are really good for that. So is flash fiction. Once you've gotten to a certain point with that, I really recommend getting into a writer's group next.
Mhm.
That's a good way to really start having other people that are also trying to improve. They know things that they're doing wrong, and so they'll see it in your work and be able to point it out, and also you'll be able to see it in their work, and it helps everybody. And then once you've raised up to a certain point, then an editor can come in and spruce up what you've already done and maybe point out things that maybe the writing group didn't. But it really is steps to get to there, because the editor isn't going to make everything better. They're just there to help, and it's really up to you as the writer to make sure that you're doing everything you can to bring yourself up to that point.
FYI, Wade Finnegan chimed in and said, "Hello, everybody." Hi, Wade. Good to see you.
Hi, Wade.
Very true. And as a quick note, there should really be a writing group on Google+. We've got a fantastic community, and there should be like an actual writing group. Although,
Well, there are several. I just don't think there's any that are specifically
our community
around the SPP group.
Well, Patrick Stem
Really,
seems really
SPP
good.
is the middle.
Yeah, Patrick Stem seems really good at just like setting up Google Plus communities for things. So, Patrick, if you want to take a crack at that, that'd be pretty awesome. Cough, do it, Patrick. But the other thing that I want to say as a caveat to that is that it's also really easy to lose friends in a writing group if you're a certain type of person. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, there are two kinds of people that go to writing groups. There's the kind of people that are looking for criticism. They want to be told they suck. I was one of those people. I was tired of friends, and I was actually tired of friends and family telling me, "No, this is really good. I liked it." I'm like, that's not helping me. It's not good enough. I want to know what's wrong with it.
Right.
And
what can I improve?
Yeah, and when I went to a writer's group, and they're like, "Okay, you start a lot of sentences with a pronoun, and you doubled up the words here, but I was like, I do that. Thank you. I love you. I'm coming back next week."
And you also said do, so.
Do. And, well, it's my duty to say such things.
Nah.
But then the second type of person. So the first type is people looking for criticism. The second type of person are the people that are looking for validation.
Right.
They want somebody else. They don't know if they're good enough, and they want somebody else to read their stuff and tell them that they're good.
Right.
And
I think we're all that to a point, though.
I'm not.
I think that we all like that,
I
but
mean,
there
to a
are certain types of people who will come into a critique group and put their stuff up, and if people are like, well, this
Not
is got
glowing.
problems, yeah, if
Yeah.
people are
Yeah.
not saying that everything that
Well,
every
I
word
mean,
on their lips is magic, then they will flip their shit.
well, yeah,
Right.
there's that kind, but I'm talking more like on the other opposite side of the scale, where like me, I need the validation to say, okay, this is good enough to publish. I have done a whole bunch of work to get myself to that point. Now I can start doing the actual publishing part.
Right.
No, one thing that I find helpful, especially because, I mean, not to like stomp all over Garrett's thunder, but I actually do editing on the side as well. Sorry.
Whatever.
Whatever. One thing that I find that's helpful, especially if I'm doing face-to-face talks about their work, one thing that helps with the whole ego thing is you say something nice about their work, and then you say something that needs work, and then you reinforce it with something else that they do right.
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 And that helps soften the blow. Then they don't feel that they're a complete and total failure, and they're not just hearing nothing and nothing and nothing but negative, negative, negative.
Yeah.
But you have to be honest, and
Yeah.
nobody is going to improve if nobody's honest with them.
Yeah, because the other thing too is that, and this I totally sympathize. There are certain people who aren't necessarily looking for validation, but they do have a relatively thin skin. So they come in, they want their critique, and they're like, I'm gonna get critiques, and I'm gonna fix it, and it's gonna be so much better. But they're not used to the reality of it. So when they actually get the critiques, they just kind of curl up and go into the corner, and they just disappear, and they don't touch the book again. That actually happened to a client of mine, where I contacted them many months later, and I was like, What? You haven't published your book yet. Why haven't you published your book? And they were like, "Oh, I just I really don't think it's good enough and everything." I was like, I think it's good. I don't think it's good enough. But if you make the changes, it'll be good. Like da, 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 da. And he was like, "Oh, I don't know," because I showed it to some other people and they like really agreed. And I was like, I didn't want to be that guy. But then again, like I mean. You can't be a person like that and like really build a career at it, I guess.
Well, yeah, because I mean, if you can't take that little bit of criticism, trying to get it, somebody who's actually trying to help you get it better. What happens when you put it up there and then you have all these people who 1-star review? I didn't read it.
Yeah, then you take a long walk off a short pier.
Exactly.
So, how about? And I think that this is actually a very good conversation, but this really has nothing to do with fancy writing versus flat writing.
Well, I mean, I kind of think it does. I mean, I think
good.
Because I don't want to just talk about because like I said, we can't in an hour cover everything there is on the topic, and I think that is a step that people can take to move from flat writing to fancy writing, but certainly pitfalls to avoid are things like same sentence structure over and over and over again.
5-word sentences.
Sorry?
5-word sentences.
5-word sentence. 5-word.
Yeah. Garrett turned on the light. Garrett went to the car.
Saying never use a 5-word sentence, or like lots of too many.
I'm just saying, like always 5-word sentences.
Right.
Yeah, it gets really monotonous and repetitious.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, any repetition really like overdone. I mean, you can have a rhythm to things where something happens and then you have it happen again later in the story, and then it happens a third time, and each time it's slightly different and modified by the same lens. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about everything is exactly the same, and it's just like, oh my effing god, like okay,
repeating the same word.
Yeah, I was yes. Oh, that's another one, dude. Especially, I mean, if it's you can't avoid using the a lot. You just
The is one of those words that kind of fade into the background. Same with set.
right.
But
don't use the word luminescent 15 times in a book.
Right.
It's never happened to me. I'm just using that as an example.
Now the whole thing about dialogue tags, that goes back and forth, and that's a whole other thing. But there's this one book that I read that was one of the most disappointing books that I've ever picked up. It was just horrible. But in it, every character rasped. Every character in almost every situation rasped whatever they were saying. Are
Dude,
you
you
okay?
fucker,
He
you told me you
rasped.
liked Nightblade.
No, I lied.
This sounds like everybody in the whole book had a really bad cold or
Oh yeah,
smoker's cough or something.
everyone. Where are you going? She rasped, and it was like
that's
at one point
fantastic.
I sat there and counted, and it was because it was a physical book, and so I opened it up, and I was like 1, 2,
It was an actual
4,
book.
5. Yeah, it was a book that I got at the B&E. Well, not B&E, B&N.
So it was a
That's
published
breaking
book.
and entering.
Traditionally
yeah,
published
so-
book.
It was a traditionally published book,
Ah.
Wow.
and this was everywhere. I didn't bother counting them throughout the whole book, but I was able to open it up to a section and count 5 on those 2 pages. I'm like,
Oh my god.
This is ridiculous. And it was a ridiculously thick book like this, but
Oh man.
the font type was like 15. So I was like, so this is actually a short book, and it's just really a lot of pages. And it was an overall terrible book. It had no climax. The whole plot just kind of went the end, and I'm like, what?
I hate when it goes on and on and on and back and forth, and then you don't climax. It's just the worst.
Right?
I mean, nobody enjoys that experience.
No, well, it's not that it happens on purpose.
So on a oh crap, what was I gonna say? Oh, okay. On a related note, we've killed Chrissy. On a related note, I was highly recommended a fantasy book. I actually can't remember the name of the fantasy book. This was a few years ago, and okay, I think almost every writer does this at one point or another. The last minute rescue, the bad guy standing over the good guy, and they've got their gun to the person's head, and a shot rings out, and then the bad guy falls over dead instead of the good guy, or the bad guy is standing there with their sword raised over their head, and then somebody comes in at the last second and tackles them away, or shoots an arrow into the back of their skull, or something like that. Almost anybody who writes a lot of action is going to have a moment like that, or something like that.
I'm gonna. You're not wrong.
I'm
but
not.
I will say I've actually. No, that's usually when the character dies.
Right.
But for
like,
me,
you're like, they're gonna what?
Scott, you
who's
don't
gonna
count.
save
You
him?
just kill everybody.
I do, and I'm
Like,
sorry.
who's gonna save him? How's he gonna get out of this?
Oh.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
It's one of those, and that's fine. That's cool because that's a nice break from what everybody does. In this one book, this exact scenario happened 15 times. 15 that I counted. I started counting after a while because after the third time I was like, you do this kind of a lot, don't you? And then 15 times later I'm like, holy fuck, stop it!
I don't know what this book is.
I can't remember. I'll ask my dad. I gave it to him because I told him the rest of the story, and he was like, "Oh, that actually sounds pretty cool." And I was like,
Except for that
"But
part.
it's not. It's not.
It's not.
It's not good."
Yeah. No, you know what? Because I read a lot of fantasy, and I have this rule generally when I'm like cruising the aisles for a new book. It's like you can't do assassin or necromancer poorly. Like it can't be done. Well, I have since amended that to be assassin poorly. Because let me tell
You
you,
lost Garrett.
oh, Garrett, no, come
Does
back.
that mean we're still online or?
Have you seen? Yeah, no, it says live. Have you
So
seen that
what?
one SNL skit where it's Will Ferrell and I don't remember the other actress, but they're sitting there, and all of a sudden the teleprompter goes dead, and they just go wide-eyed and they don't know how to have a conversation.
No, I haven't seen it.
No, well, that's what I feel like has just happened. But at any rate,
How do we get
that.
Garrett back in here?
He should be able to just
there he
jump
goes.
back in. Yeah. I was waiting. I knew. I believed. I had faith the whole
You have
time.
faith.
I had
Hi, Garrett.
I guess I'm like handicapped. I tried to pound my hand on the table when you said that you had amended your rule because I thought that was funny, and my thumb landed on command and my finger landed on Q, and I quit Chrome. I quit
Nice.
out.
Wow.
Good
Yeah.
job.
I'm so
So-
proud right now.
You're so coordinated.
I really am.
Unfortunately, though, and I apologize that this makes you so angry, but the rule had to be amended.
Yeah, no, totally. I just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. Because
Uh,
now it's
so
only
what was the book?
assassins. It was a necromancer book. I was like, necromancer, that's awesome. No, it was more like the Ghost Whisperer, and it was just, it was terrible. It was awful, and this was definitely now one of my favorite authors. I just want to make this point clear. One of my favorite authors is a woman, as Robin Hobb. I think she's fantastic. So I don't want this to be all female authors do this and that. However, there is a thing where male authors. Sometimes some male authors are unable to write a proper female perspective. And it also goes the other way, where there are also female authors who are unable to write a male perspective.
Right.
He is definitely one of those. Every male character was basically just a chick with a sword. And it was just like, you're supposed to be a guy, right? Like they're crying all over one another, and he's just really soft, and he has so many feelings. And he's I'm a necromancer, and I use the dark arts. And I'm like, really? Really, buddy? And he's like, you know what, it's really late, and I'm just going to go get a drink over at this well. And I'm like, all right. And then there's a dead girl, and he's like, where did you die? And it's like, and he's like weeping with the dead girl, and like he says a prayer over her corpse that was buried in a shallow grave, and that frees her spirit. I'm like, how are you a necromancer? Raise her! Raise an army! You're not doing this right! And then like they're going on and then blah, 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 and then they get to the king, and it's like the end. I'm like, oh.
Howard
To my
Craig.
castle, the king rasped. Yeah.
Cracked.com actually had a pretty fantastic article about that sort of thing, and specifically about male actors, male authors unable to write compelling female characters, and they actually brought up now here's the thing. They brought up George R. R. Martin, and I'm like, dude, George R. R. Martin has created some of my favorite female characters of all time.
He does amazing.
But they took a several paragraph passage from Game of Thrones, and it's Daenerys, and I was sort of like, because he talks about her boobs 6 times. It's like as she walked across the street in Marine, she could feel her boobs sliding around between her breasts sliding around beneath her leather vest. Her breasts heaved as she took a sharp breath inward and everything, and you're sort of like, I don't think Daenerys was thinking about her boobs as much as you were.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
You can't say that because you don't have boobs, so you don't know. I can say that if I had boobs, I would be thinking about them
The
constantly.
author of the article was a female. Chrissy, go ahead. Your
I have
voice actually
boobs.
matters here.
Sometimes I will be walking around or something and just thinking how nice it is that they bounce like that.
You'll be self-aware. You're self-aware.
I am. I love my boobs. I have really nice ones, and I'm sorry.
And that's fine. I just don't think it's the first thing on your mind when you're negotiating a peace treaty, so that you
definitely
don't
not.
have to have your army of Unsullied wipe out a city with 15,000 inhabitants, a lot of whom are women and children.
It only happens
I'm
when
just
I
saying.
have nothing else on my mind.
Right. And then, of course, if you got nothing else on your mind, dude, boobs. But like, boobs.
Well, and, on the other side of that, I mean, and you can't deny it, and you don't have to, Garrett. You don't have to say a word, but sometimes you'll just be sitting there doing something, and you will think to yourself, I have the weirdest boner right now.
Absolutely. That's a thing.
So
I think that some people.
Well, this conversation just took a turn.
And there's also, like, I really want to put in a very... See, here's the thing. Like, it would have to be in a spoof book, and, like, I'm sort of... we've got the Ninja Man, which is a bit of a spoof book, and Non-Zombie, which is like a total spoof book. But I want a really serious scene where a very serious man, maybe the bad guy, walks in and walks to his chair or his throne or whatever, and sits down staring at the main character and sits on his balls and he has to go and like does that little jerk and then shift in the ooh, because that's a real thing, man. The danger is real. And
it does. And bicycle seats are not your friend on a hot summer day. Not even a little. No. It's my shorts need support. So I actually, spiritually deficient, I could definitely get away with that because it's a straight story. Like, you know, there's demons and he's a demon catcher and all that stuff. But it's a comedy. It's meant to be humor. So it's like a dark humor. And this is definitely a story where you could have some kind of demon lord walking around naked, giving some kind of monologue, and I could very definitely have my main character just walk up and go, and just have the demon just start freaking out. And he's like, oh, it's worse. Why is it worse? It's worse than a kick. It's worse. I'm sick. It's climbing. I can feel it in my feet. And like he's pacing like in a circle. Just huge red demon lord. Naked as hell, horns, and just and just I know, and just have every guy character would totally get it, and the main character just be like, how are these negotiations gonna go down? Because I have to do this all night.
We got some comments. Rachel Davis said, if you want to experience all parts of the spectrum, go take a creative writing class. Critique days can be interesting and torture at the same time, like explaining to your professor about the Bible and the story of Jesus' resurrection. I don't know where that comes in, but cool. And if you can survive that, you can survive a writing group. Yes, creative writing classes can be good. They can also be bad. I will just say that.
The one I had was not very good.
Yeah. And Amy T. Schubert said, identifying your writing takes us what beta readers are for. It is if you've got good beta readers.
Yes.
I had some really good beta readers on Rebel EL, and then I had, you know, like what I'd call mid-list beta readers who did exactly what I asked them for, and that is good. You need to get a lot of people, and you need to get a lot of opinions, but you need to very specifically guide them to what you're looking for. And then there were a few people, you know, obviously people in this community and writers and stuff like that, who went overboard, and they were like, and I noticed this, and I noticed this, and you say this a lot, and I was just like, you people are awesome. I wasn't even expecting that. So just be very careful that you like make sure you've got the right beta readers.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, exactly.
wasn't the key to your success just having tons of them?
I think it's hilarious to associate me with success in any way.
Well,
yes, it was.
I mean the fact that you got good beta readers.
Yes, it was.
And a wide spectrum of them.
I had 50 people, only about 30 of whom actually read the book, which was kind of disappointing.
Hooray!
And I mean, only 30 of them started, and like only 15 ended up finishing the book. So that was sort of.
You're sitting here, so you're all 50, 30. It's only 15. I have like 4 or 5.
Right. So I recognize that I'm like kind of lucky.
I mean, part of the thing is you start with a whole bunch and then you narrow it down to the ones that do the best job for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, basically the things to look for in a beta reader, because beta readers are invaluable. I will back that 100%. Like, beta readers are absolutely invaluable. You should never publish something unless you've had it beta read at least once. Like, don't just read, like, don't write and then edit and think that you've done great and then just put it up. Like,
well, then I'm just all wrong.
Right here. I'm talking to you.
I don't always use beta readers, but I do always think it's a good idea. Sometimes I'm just sort of like. Yeah.
See, I didn't even start using an editor until this year.
Yeah.
Because I was poor.
Yeah.
For me, the thing is your brain tricks you. You can be completely knowledgeable about grammar and spelling and everything. You could be the utmost, but when you're writing and you're not there, you know, because you can't be there 100%. And as you're rereading it, you will read it as you meant it, and not as what's actually been written down.
And but I want to place a quick caveat on this, which is that beta readers can be very, very fantastic for identifying a lot of problems with your work. I have heard some people say, however, that they are a total substitute for an editor. I don't think that's the case, and I think that a really good developmental editor can be like, I think they should work in tandem. Get both.
Right.
But like, I think a really good developmental editor who's a professional in that field. For example, as soon as I'm able to hire a developmental editor, I will be hiring Melissa Donovan, because she beta read Rebel Yell, and she basically just did a developmental edit. And I was just like,
Nice.
oh my God, you're freaking awesome, and I should be paying you to do this. And she was like, oh, I'll happily beta read for free. I'm like, no, I want to pay you because I want you to do more. It is not like, I'm not trying to be nice. I need more from you.
Actually, I have a beta reader that's the exact same way. She points out all of these things that I'm not even aware that I do, and I'm just like, when I have money, I'm giving it to you. I just want you to know this. Keep doing exactly what you're doing. I'm going to pay you so much. And she's like, no, it's fine. I really like your stories. I'm like, no, you listen to me. I'm going to give you money.
Shut up and take my money.
This is not a negotiation. I am paying you. Yeah,
I'm
and
Batman.
That's so nice.
Zach popped in and said, I disagree. That's racist. That's what she said. Good night. So,
Yep.
Thanks, Zach. Good to see you, buddy.
It's
Why
like
aren't
having
you in the
him on the
hangout?
show.
You have to read Rachel's comment.
Yes. She's going back to the necromancer, and she said maybe they wanted to create a new type of necromancer, kind of like Stephanie Meyer created sparkling vampires. If so, I hope they are shot. I don't really.
Unfortunately, it's a series that's out now. I don't know how popular it is, but it exists as a series. And fortunately, I didn't read past the first one. I was done.
I can't believe you finished the first one.
When I pay money for a book, I'm gonna read it. I paid money for this. I will finish it, and sometimes it will take me a while, but eventually I'll get through it, and I'll be like, well, that was crap. And then
I admire that in you. I do not have that fortitude or resolve.
Me either. I have a lot of unfinished books sitting around my house because, oh, well, this one's better.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, I wonder how many books like Ready Player One I've completely missed out on. Because Chrissy, and I've talked about it on this show, dude, the first 70 pages of that book, nothing happens. And I was just like,
Right.
Oh, my God.
But once you get past it, it's like, oh, my God.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, oh, it's the best thing ever. So I'm
like
thinking,
that. Am I gonna make that face?
yeah, you will. Absolutely.
That face. I don't want to read this book.
And your body will also jerk in a very specific fashion. Ah, it's the best thing oh. So,
Hello, Rigger,
all of
my
that
friend.
will
Yeah, I'm good. No, it's cool.
So,
I'm gonna go read the dictionary.
do we have any? What are your other favorite specific, not pet peeves, but like fancy writing things? Here's another thing.
Mary Sue's.
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't. Mary Sue's.
Yeah.
Oh, Mary Sue's is an interesting topic for another time, because I read a very interesting article that nobody
it can
talks
be done
about.
well.
Yeah, well, but see, here's the thing. Nobody talks about Max Sue's. Superman is a Mary Sue. Batman is a Mary Sue. Almost every superhero is a Mary Sue. Ender is a Mary Sue. The main character in Wheel of Time is a Mary Sue. Main character in Ready Player One.
How are they defining Mary Sue?
A woman who's just so smart and so intelligent, and everybody really loves them, and they're pretty much successful at whatever they do.
Oh.
And so rich, and so da-da-da-da-da. Like, that's the definition I found online for Mary Sue.
Yeah, see, the way I was reading it was Mary Sue is putting yourself in the story.
Yeah, you
Okay,
put
well,
yourself, but it's
that's-
also the best version of yourself in the story,
Yeah,
and
like
you're all powerful.
The ultimate version of you.
But that's the same thing.
Yeah,
Like,
and
the comic books
that'd
are
be
a bunch of
interesting.
nerds who get bitten by radioactive spiders and end up marrying supermodels.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just saying, Stan Lee and Alan Ditko had a little bit of, they were two unpopular,
Well,
not super attractive nerds.
Right.
I
You know.
would say that there's a difference between a Mary Sue and just a power fantasy.
I think that the point of the article that I read was that nobody minds when guys power fantasy, but people mind when girls power fantasy. And to some degree that's true, but to some degree I think the problem is inherent in the title Mary Sue, because it seems to associate all the examples of Mary Sue that I've ever been given have been female characters by female authors. And I'm like, but you never talk about all this crap going on
You're
over
right.
there, you know? I don't know. Like, people call Hermione Granger a Mary Sue.
I don't
Not-
think she is.
Not Harry Potter, who is a Mary Sue, because he's an idiot and he still wins all the time, whereas Hermione Granger is like, is actually smart. And
Well, I think the difference between a Mary Sue is putting yourself in. So the Mary Sue would be whichever one she identified with when she was writing. It's a version of her. I don't think she put herself in as Harry Potter, but I also don't think she put herself in as Hermione. I think that they were just characters.
Yeah.
It is possible to just have characters, because as a writer, you have to put some parts of yourself into almost every character that has a speaking part, because you have to dig down into yourself and you come up with these ideas. So it's a part of you no matter. But a Mary Sue is a very specific thing, and it's a line.
So where it bothers me is when it's a flat character, where
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
powerful, it does lots of things, everything good happens to him, and there's no development in the character.
He can do no
Whereas,
wrong.
yes,
Super good.
okay, Superman and Batman and stuff, they're all powerful, sexy, whatever, but bad things happen to them. They almost die. They do die on several occasions. And whereas Mary Sue, everything is great.
Yeah.
I
And
think,
Mary Sue-
I think that's actually, Chrissy, you have next week's topic. Maybe we should just talk about that, because I think that's a topic.
That's probably it.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, mate. Chrissy picked the Mary Sue. My God, have you?
You're so
She brought it
sexist.
up. She brought it up. One thing that I was going to mention is I don't like to make broad blanket statements like this, but I do kind of get annoyed by authors who I get annoyed on two opposite extreme ends of the spectrum of authors who overdo analogy and metaphor and stuff like that.
Yeah, when it's constant.
It's
Yeah.
constant. But I also really don't like when they never do that. It's like, put some fucking artistry in. Like, what is this? What does this represent? Why is this happening? What is it supposed to evoke in the reader's mind? And that is primarily what I mean by the term fancy writing, because there are phrases. Poetry is, of course, like really, really famous for this. And by the way, in terms of poetry, like, to me, the most impressive modern form of poetry is always songwriting. And Rise Against, a band that I happen to be like very, very fanatically a big fan of. They're probably my favorite band right now. Their lyrical metaphors are freaking awesome. And of course, John Green is like very, very famous for lots of metaphor, lots of this, lots of that. And I think that is a way to put a lot of life and spark into your writing. And when I've brought this up in the past, like in my critique group on Facebook and everything like that, people are like, "Well, Hemingway didn't do that shit." I'm like, "Are you off your fucking rocker? Like, are you insane? Do you even read him?" Anyway, go ahead. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
Are you comparing yourself to Hemingway, dude? Like, yeah, that would be my first response if somebody
Right.
came to that. Like, really? So you're like Hemingway? Okay. Yeah. No. What have you got? Go ahead, show me. I think that in going with that, actually, I can go with that on a few things. There's a book called Orcs, and it's basically the storyline is from the view of the orcs. And they're on this mission that the humans are the evil guys, and it's really good. I think it's through 3 parts, which I think were originally supposed to be 3 books, but they ended up just putting it into 1 book. It's just called Orcs. The writing is very simple. There's no real metaphors. There's no real anything. It's just stuff happens. It's a lot of facts, and it's like, I think there is a decent amount of telling rather than showing, with the orcs just being angry or whatnot. But it actually reads just fine. It gets everything across that it needs to, and the story just progresses, and it doesn't get in the way. And I think that's the key. Actually, my friend Cody is a writer, and his is actually an example of some of the most beautiful writing I've heard. He has a way with description that's just, I sit here, I'm just like, I hate you. Like, I know for me, I have a problem with description, and he does it effortlessly, and it's just some of the most beautiful prose, and it's amazing, and it doesn't get in the way, and it just tells the story. For me, when I write, my aim is not to be pretty. I don't want my prose to be noticed. I want it to be invisible. I want you to be able to just read it, nothing getting you out, and you just visualize it in your head, and you just go, and you just get the story. I know that beautiful prose is out of my reach. I am not a poet. So I just do my best to make sure that the words are invisible, that the point gets across, and you can just read it and not be pulled out for any reason. I don't want it to be pulled out for being too pretty. I don't want it being pulled out for being too bad. On that line, like what you were talking about with metaphors, the same can also be true of certain words that are really easy to overuse, and it's about balance. Metaphors are good in a balance. You shouldn't never have them, but you shouldn't do them all the time either. Otherwise, either way will pull you out.
Right.
Other keywords that right now will help clean up your writing if anybody's struggling with this. Starting a sentence with a noun or a pronoun constantly. That will kill you. Starting every sentence with the, that will kill you. Overuse, and I have gotten in arguments with this because people just say never, never, ever, never, ever, ever do it. I don't believe that. I believe that it should just be used in moderation. But these are words that are really easy to overuse.
Yeah.
So people tend to unconsciously. But I don't think that you should never use them. They can make for perfectly fine sentences. Just make sure you don't overuse it.
Yeah, for
Stuff
sure.
like that. It's just a matter of balancing and figuring out your voice, how you're writing it.
And that's a very, very key thing, is finding out what do you like, because you're probably going to write the kind of stuff that you like, and but you can't write what you like until you figure out what you like. And it's not just a matter of, oh, I like The Great Gatsby, so I'm going to write like him. It's like, it's actually analyzing. That's too general. That's too broad. It's like, but what are you going to write with a simplistic style? Are you going to write with, like, for me, I really like certain fantasy. Obviously, I write mostly fantasy, and there's certain fantasy that I like. For example, the Sword of Truth series, love that series, but the writing is not like, I'm not like, and I like the sort of epic style of Lord of the Rings. So I am trying to emulate that with Nightblade, for example. Whereas Realm Keepers, totally different kettle of fish, and that is trying to emulate like a completely different style, like with the same voice, but without figuring out what you are going for, you'll never know if you've made it or not. And odds are, if you're just recounting the events that are going on without any artistry or something like that, it's going to be difficult to read and to get through your entire book. I don't know.
I think one thing that helps with that, especially with the avoiding being flat versus fancy or really just functional, is just think about the fact that when you're going through your day-to-day, and this is just a fun exercise, think about how you're thinking things, because as you're walking down the street, you don't think the sky is blue, the sky is green. Like, there's feelings attached to it. Like, even if it's subconscious and they're minor, there's still something like, oh, there's such a nice breeze out, and it's been so hot the past few days. And it's like, there's emotion there, and that is part of what makes you you. Maybe some people appreciate the cold, some people appreciate the warmth. So where this character is happy about a breeze, maybe another character has been grateful that it's been warm lately.
Right.
And that gives personality to the writing.
Right. Totally. A couple final questions before we wrap up for the night. Kazakara, who is an awesome username, said, "My first live show. I'm really late. Haha. I'll have to catch the beginning in the morning." Hi, Kazakara. Your username, it's just the best. So thank you for popping in. Dylan Perry said, "Coming in on the 47-minute mark, but still awesome to watch this live." Hi, Dylan. And Patrick said, "The guys have totally broken Chrissy tonight."
Yeah.
Indeed.
They are
From all
guilty.
of the helpless laughter earlier. That was fun. Well, good show, guys. I think we can all agree that that is better when Zach's not here. So I get. I'm kidding. He'll be back next week. All of you Zach lovers, we know you're out there somewhere in some. No, I'm kidding. Of course, we'll have Zach back next week. We're very thrilled. He watched the show tonight, so I'm just ribbing him. Anything?
Scott did get to talk more this time, so.
Yes, he did. Well, I think that was because I've been trying to shut up more and more each show.
We appreciate that.
And it's appreciated.
Yeah.
If you made it. 'Cause I'm starting to pull out the Italian credo, and
You're starting to whip
been
it out?
doing it. Oh yeah. Which generally is lose your breath, lose your turn. And,
Nice.
And I haven't been doing that, but I'm about to.
I'm gonna do it.
This is a good show. This is a good show. I like this show. It's a good show.
All right, excellent. Anything tremendously important before we end off for the night?
Get my book back this weekend.
Exercise.
Oh yeah, Footprints this weekend. Chrissy Moss, Footprints. It's free this weekend. You were gonna say, Scott?
Exercise. That's all. I had nothing good.
Okay, exercise. Good. Exercise. And keep an eye out. Tonight, I'm staying up all night, and I'm finishing. God damn it, the first episode of Mystic, and I'm going to pump out the rest of them by the weekend. The outline is done, and I'm sitting down, actually, right after this I'm putting the kids to bed, and then I'm sitting down, and I'm fucking writing. No more excuses, and I apologize to anybody who is waiting for that. It's coming very shortly. And with that, I will call an end to this travesty of a podcast. Thank you all of the people who chimed in with the live comments tonight. Patrick, Dylan, Kazakara, Rachel Davis, ZC Bolger, who shouldn't be in the comments, Amy Schubert, Wade Finnegan. You guys are awesome. I'm Garrett. You can find me at GarrettBRobinson.com. Scott is at theshroudbetween.com, and Chrissy is at ChrissyMoss.com. We'll see you next week. Good night.